What's up, everybody? It's your friend Isaac from Big Bike BMX, and I'm here with my trusty ride or die homeboy, 80s BMX Craig. Dude, you're half the man you were last time I looked at you.
And I was half the man before that, so I'm probably the quarter of the guy that you used to know, right?
It's nuts,
Thanks,
dude.
man. Yeah, man. Awesome time. Great to be here, bro.
You've lost a ton of weight. You're looking great. Is this Scientology? What are you doing now?
It's not Scientology, I can tell you that. Nothing wrong with Scientology, though. This is just a little bit of good old-fashioned BMX and putting some good foods in the body, bro.
Look at Craig just being politically correct. Nothing wrong with Scientology. There's a lot wrong with Scientology, bro. There's a ton wrong with.
Have you not watched? You watch that special on Netflix? There might be another. Anyways, we won't get into that.
I'm afraid to even publish this on YouTube because then people come to my house, start recording me. Whatever,
man.
Nothing wrong
good
with
luck with all that, bro.
Nothing wrong with Scientology. Y'all are all right.
Now you see my approach.
All right. So, as our guests log off, they're like, and we're out. All right. So we have Craig.
Yes.
So, dude, this is the most fast. This story is one of the most fascinating stories, and I've been chomping at the bit to hear it. Because so you introduced me to this brand. God, how long ago? A year? It was well over a year.
At least over a year ago, because we're
well
over about a year and a half of COVID almost, right? So this was probably before COVID.
Yeah, it was like at that moment, and then you're like, bro, check it out. There's a new old BMX freestyle bike company, and I was like, what? What are you trying to explain to me right now, Craig? 80s BMX Craig, and I was like, hold on. And so he sends me this link, and I'm like, all right. So now you guys watching, everyone in live chat, you have a friend like Craig, 80s BMX Craig, that will send you pictures of bikes. What I did, the first thing I did was like, oh, it's a repop. Okay, cool. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, wait, it's not. It's got the geometry I know, not the geometry that, because like right now, if I go buy a Haro Master, it doesn't ride like the Haro Master I grew up with. It rides like a Haro Master Flatland now. Mm-hmm. These bikes are old. These are new, old geometry. The bike I even say it with my teeth clenched. It's the bike you grew up with. That geometry with the big back, the big rear end that we can all cherry pick her on. Comes with all the freestyle goodies. You could have upgraded, and what was it? You could upgrade this, and this is what we went on and on about. What could you upgrade to?
Well, let me do this, Isaac, real quick. Hey, ladies and gentlemen out there in the big bike BMX world, here on YouTube and streaming us live in the podcast, or at least hearing this from our podcast, man, let me introduce these guys, Isaac. Today on our show, we've got two dudes here, two rad, awesome dudes from the bike that Isaac is describing. This is the company that is putting that bike out. They're called Prospect BMX Bicycles. And we have the guys who started this whole thing, Isaac. Let me tell you, we have Craig Hanna and we've got Dave DeFazio, two of the founding designers, the architects of this whole thing, ready to tell us all about this great company and all these bikes that Isaac is gritting his teeth about. So let's give those guys a warm welcome to Big Bike BMX. Guys, thank you for showing up. What do you think about what Isaac's saying?
Love it. And thank you guys for having us on. We appreciate it. We've, been following you guys even before we decided to start this company. I was really late to Instagram. I didn't get on Instagram until about 2018. And one of the first accounts I found was yours, Craig. And I started following you.
Thank
you. I started following the big bike stuff. And, it just kind of reignited, my love for BMX that I grew up with in the 80s. And I have a 1983 Mongoose California Special that I've held on to for all these years. I got it in 4th grade. That was 1983. And it's actually sitting behind me right now, but I was in the process of kind of restoring that. And then we have a third partner, Shad Hayes, who's not on this call, but he's our designer. And Shad and Dave and I were all talking about BMX, and Shad was working on his Mongoose Decade. And we were just looking at all this BMX stuff, and that's kind of what started the whole idea of like, hey, maybe we could do something. But back to Isaac's point, the upgrade was, are you talking about the Skyway Max?
Yes, dude. Yeah, absolutely. It was like, I was like, dude, they speak my language. Look at this.
Yeah.
You could get regular spoke rims, or you could get mags, right?
Yep. And actually, so the bikes come with, they're about 3/4 assembled from the manufacturer, and they come with spokes on them. So if you order the mags, you get the spokes because they're already in the box, and you can throw the mags on too. So you can have two sets of wheels, or take the tires and tubes off of the.
Oh, that's pretty dope. I thought it was either one or the other, but
Nope.
I want to get into that. But what I mean, Craig, you touched on this pretty quick, and then you move forward. But I want to know, you were talking about an 83 Mongoose Californian that you have, that you still have the one that you got when you were a kid, right?
It was
And
my
so,
first BMX bike.
yeah, my first BMX bike was an 82 Team Mongoose. And Dave, what was your first BMX bike?
It was an 83 Mongoose Expert.
Dang, bro, we got a Team California Expert. Our first bikes. Do you still have yours, Dave? The first one?
No, that got stolen.
Oh man, bummer.
It happens.
Yeah. So what I really want to know is, like, so you guys grew up, and you guys can answer this separately, but let's start from, like, I want to build up to what the passion was that led into wanting to build bikes. I mean, obviously you guys have been doing this for a long time if you had an early 80s model BMX bike, but Dave, where did things kick off for you? I mean, where did you get into bikes? How did you get into it? And then Craig, maybe the same question for you.
All right. So I will start, right? So, I mean, I started riding a bike in like 79. I don't even remember what my first like bicycle was. I just remember my first BMX bike was that Mongoose Expert. I got that in 83 for my 8th birthday. And my cousin Tony, actually, he raced back in the day for Powerlight. So he was like sponsored. Lots of racing at South Park, North Park out in Pittsburgh. So I started first going to the races to kind of watch him. And, that kind of spawned that passion, because we rode around the neighborhood from the time we woke up until dinner time, right? I mean, we would just be out all day on our bikes. So I got into racing in like 84. And I raced 84, 85, mostly at North Park. I was not good at all. But I was also a child, so, I mean, I never pursued it. I was never good enough to pursue it. But, that was kind of where the love came for BMX. And I mean, I'm still up through my 30s and 40s, still riding bicycles. I got into mountain biking, whenever I was probably 34, 35, did that for a while. So, I mean, anything with 2 wheels is awesome. So, but.
Did you ever, Dave, I mean, you started out in racing kind of like most of us did, right? Because freestyle really wasn't around to the point where, it was so mainstream as it was like in the early to mid 80s. But did you ever go from racing and then transition into freestyle at all? Or was it just purely race?
It was purely race. And then I went to Virginia Beach and I saw like skateboarders. And then I got my first skateboard and I was hooked on skateboarding for 20 years. So,
okay.
So, I mean, but I always loved, I mean, especially like the freestyle BMX, and watching the uprising of that, like in the late 80s, and, watching the Hoffman come out. I mean, all of that was just absolutely mind blowing of what could be done on a bike. It blew my mind for sure. So,
well, it seems like a lot of guys can go from, including myself. I mean, I was riding bikes, BMX bikes. Skating got really popular. Skating was like, everybody was doing it at school. It was something you could do when you're hanging out. So it was like, we would ride bikes. I'd ride bikes with a group of friends, and then I'd skate with a group of friends. Right. So it's like, some people took one or the other and went for it. And some, like me, were like, I can skate, I can BMX. I stuck with BMX for the most time. I mean, the longevity, I still do it today. So I kind of figured, BMX stuck around for me. But, with you, how long, I mean, you were riding bikes. Did you stop and then got into skating, then got back to bikes, or was bikes something that you always had?
Bikes was always there. You know what I mean? I mean, it was never gone. I even had a roommate once, and I mean, he had I mean, this is probably like in the mid 90s, but I mean, he had dozens of like BMX bikes, red lines, hutches, everything in the basement, you know, and they were just like things he collected over the years. I mean, we would always go do just rides, 5, 10 of us, you know, ride around the city. It was, you know, good times for sure.
Does he still have those bikes, and does he need any friends? Because I'm available.
Dude, he still has a lot of bikes. And you know, and there's a bicycle heaven in Pittsburgh. And I mean, I know he has quite a few bikes in that museum as well. So he's, I mean, we still see each other at the swap meets and stuff. It's pretty cool.
That's dope, dude. I love that.
Yeah.
And Craig, you got, here's what's funny. And when I say Prospect Craig, or what was it? The Ludicrous, what was it?
He wants like Luda Craig.
Luda Craig.
Dave wants to call
Luda Craig. Okay.
Craig's like, don't.
I just want to embarrass him, you know. That's the way we do it.
So Prospect Craig, you guys, and here's the funny thing. If you're in the live chat right now, or you've watched live chat, or you've read it, you know both these guys because they're in live chat every time we do a meeting. So, or every time we do an interview. So y'all know these two. Prospect Craig, same question. Like, where did you grow up? What was your first, like, we know your first bike. What was your history in BMX and freestyle? Tell me about growing up.
Yeah, so I got into BMX. I had a banana seat bike, you know, late 70s, early 80s. And then I started seeing BMX probably around 81, 82. And that's when I started like getting into it. And, you know, but I was too little. My parents didn't buy me a BMX bike. We ended up moving from New Jersey to Indiana. That was when I was in 4th grade. That's 1983. And we went over to a shop called Kirk's Bike Shop in Muncie, Indiana. And I picked out my 83 Mongoose, and my sister, who's a couple of years younger than me, got basically the same bike, but hers was red. Mine's the chrome and black. She got chrome and red. And then from there, you know, the majority of my BMX background was I did a little bit of racing, and I don't even remember which track it was. I went there with some buddies one time or 2 times. I think it was the Fort Wayne track in Indiana, which was about an hour and a half north of where we were living. And, you know, so I didn't race a ton, but all we did was ride our bikes. And so we would ride our bikes, we would build jumps, we would race, we would do all of our own things, you know, in our neighborhood or in, you know, the surrounding neighborhoods. There was always packs of us, you know, building tracks, whether it was in the woods or I grew up in this area called Country Village, and it was a development that was still being built. So there was a lot of land and a lot of forest areas. And so we would go into those forest areas and carve out tracks and build, you know, everything up to the way that we wanted. We got into a lot of trouble because we would be chopping down trees. It wasn't even our land. We shouldn't have been in there, but that was part of the fun.
Here's what's so fascinating about both these stories. And I want you to keep going, but this just fascinates me. And it's something that like, it's pinged on me twice now, hearing both of you guys say this, because you're both like, yeah, I raced. I wasn't very good. But your memories are just riding bikes. And I can tell you, like, I competed in freestyle. I have trophies from freestyle. I was sponsored, like, whatever. The memories I have are sitting down outside of an AM/PM at like 8 o'clock, summertime, with a big gulp that I just ran through and grabbed all of them. You know, you filled it up and it tasted disgusting. But you'd sit outside, your shins are bloody, and you just sit around and just talk about BMX. And that is a universal thing. It doesn't matter how, like, if you're good, you talk, you know, if you raced a lot, you talked about races. If you weren't, you talked about the magazines, or you talked about, you know, hey, so-and-so did this jump down at, you know, whatever, you know, we had one like in my neighborhood, like the stump jump. Oh, so-and-so did a tabletop on the stump jump. And you're like, what? So that was BMX to me. It wasn't the race. It wasn't the actual contest or freestyling. I mean, I have amazing memories of just spending hours in parking lots. But what really brings me a lot of like this, you know, what gets me stoked and what I like excited to talk about is exactly what we're doing now. We all rode bikes together. We all rode. This was our joined. Everybody in chat has the same memory of just playing around on bikes, and that's what it was. I love that this company came from that, the roots of that. I love it.
It's community, right? It's community.
It is. It's 100%.
You know, I mean,
yeah.
and that's where our focus is. We're not sponsoring riders, right? I mean, we're not ex-pros, right? We're not even from within the industry, right? I mean,
well, that's
we
kind of the
decided to do this because
beauty
of
of
the
it
passion.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's truly like Isaac said, Dave, and it's the roots of our past that bring us, you know, these stories together so tightly. Isaac like just framed it so well. I can remember just sitting out in front of finding someone's house that we could go hang out all night at, like literally all night, and try, you know, maneuvers and tricks out in the front of their yard or in the street until it was like, man, should we go inside or just keep going? And it was just like those conversations, watching the best guy on the block pull after pull after pull, and then going, damn, I want to do that. And you're just 3 hours later going, I got it, or I couldn't get it. You know, it was just like the fun of hanging out is really the roots of where all four of us pretty much came from. I mean, it's so incredible that all of our stories have that same foundation,
Well,
you know?
and I think, you know, going back to, you know, kind of my history, and I'm sure you guys all have the stories too. Like we could probably have a 10-hour conversation about all the spots we went to, all the things that we did, all the places we rode with our friends. You know, even just looking at your page, you know, when I first found your Instagram page, Craig, it just sparked all these memories. I think there was a community pool in the development we lived in, and behind the pool, there was this dirt path, and it wasn't quite a half pipe, but there was one side that was a little bit, you know, lower than the other side. But we would spend hours back there because it was the biggest, like, I don't know, kind of like jump. It was, like I said, it was kind of like a half pipe, but we used it as more of a jump. So we would start on the high side, ride down in the ditch, and like launch out of it.
Yeah, it was like the hot spot. Like everybody knew to go to that spot, right?
Yep. That, and then, you know, I was fortunate. So one of the developments or the lots of land that wasn't developed on yet was right across from my house. So I had this huge section of woods right outside of my house. So my driveway had slight hills. So my driveway was actually the starting block, and then we would ride across the street, and we had a ramp going up into, we just had like a piece of plywood on some dirt, and we would just launch into the woods, and that would start the track. But there'd be like 4 of us lined up, riding down my driveway across the street, and whoever could make the whole shot, because it was only a 4x8 piece of plywood. So whoever could get to that plywood first was the one taking off the woods. But it's just all those things, all those stories, all those memories that we all remember. Like Isaac was saying, like, I barely raced. You know, I had a couple of races under my belt. I never got sponsored for riding. I never even had a freestyle bike. I wanted a freestyle bike, but I didn't have enough money to get one. And, you know, my parents wouldn't get me one. So I would borrow my friends' freestyle bikes. They would come over with their Haros and their GTs, and, you know, I try to do some tricks on there. But I primarily rode my Mongoose up until, I don't even know, like mid 90s or whatever. And then I was, my brother got into freestyle, and he had a Hoffman, and I don't remember which model it was, but I used to mess around on his Hoffman. But kind of like Dave too, I also actually, I found skateboarding in probably like 87, but all my friends, we all both did BMX and skateboarding. My crew in Indiana, Muncie, Indiana, that's all we did was we if we were riding our bikes, we had our skateboards with us too, and we just went everywhere. So
yeah, that's rad, man. Because I have a very like similar story. I'm not going to try to retell the whole thing, but just hearing you talk about, you know, you had the Mongoose, you didn't necessarily have the means to go out and get a new Haro or a new, you know, GT Pro Performer or whatever bike. I ended up taking that Mongoose, and I was like, yeah, I'll put some uni pegs on it. Yeah, I'm going to put, you know, some lavender grips and all this other stuff. I put Skyways on it, some mags, and, you know, or tough wheels. And I was like, yeah, you know, I got a freestyle bike, or at least the best freestyle bike that I can make for myself, you know, with limited means and funds, but is whatever you have, you know. And it's like, you're used to the bike already. You've been riding it for years, and here you are, you know, or here I was trying to, you know, make it a freestyle. But hey, it is what it is. And I had a hell of a lot of fun on it until I saw guys in the neighborhood rolling out with the Haro Masters. And I was like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to have.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah. I used to try boomerangs on I keep looking at it, but you know, I don't have a gyro on that thing. And I would just try boomerang and get the cable all tied up and all that stuff. But I did what I could with what I had.
That's all of us though. You know what I mean? Even if you had a Haro Master, you know what I mean? Like, you got by with what you got by. You know what I mean? Like everyone had that, you know, built up like Franken bike. You know what I mean? We all had a Franken bike, dude. Stock bikes lasted like, I mean, dude, nothing's changed. Stock bikes in the 80s, like a box BMX bike. You open it and then you throw like, oh, I got to put my flights on. I got to put my, you know, HP 48s and whatever, you know.
Yeah.
It's part of the fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
customized.
And that's, you know, that's exactly, I mean, it's like most guys our age do with anything, right? Whether it's bikes, cars, guns, you know, whatever, you're going to modify it, right?
Oh, for sure.
Nothing stays stock.
Yeah. Look at anybody that just bought a Jeep. Seriously. Like you buy a Jeep, it's like you have to upgrade it. Like it just, it's what we do. Anyway, I'm curious so you got, we'll touch quickly on how the three of you guys met, but man, I want to know that story of like, who was the first person to be like, we should make a bike? Like, that's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
How did you guys meet and who did that?
Well, so Dave and I have known each other since I moved from Indiana to Ohio and then Ohio to Pennsylvania. So I'm in Pittsburgh, Dave's in Cincinnati. But I met Dave in 1994 in Pittsburgh. We started hanging out. He ended up moving out to Cincinnati and he became friends with the third partner in Prospect, who is Shad, our designer. And so I met Shad, I don't know, Dave, when was it, like 99?
Yeah, probably 98, 99, right? So Shad and I met, you know, through like street racing and crap like that, you know, we were kind of hoonigans back in the day. But that's how Shad and I had met. Yeah, I mean, I'd go to Pittsburgh quite a bit, and he's my sidekick, man, you know. So we'd always be crashing Craigs.
So
that's
Luda Craigs, not 80 Craigs.
Yeah. So how did the bike conversation come up? Because dude, you guys are living every one of our dreams. Like every kid when we were young would look at specs and just think, if only I could make a bike, man, I would make the dopest bike. And you did.
That's kind of how it happened. I mean, so like I said, I was kind of late to getting on Instagram. It was like 2018. I started looking at Etnies BMX Craig, and actually I started looking at Big Bike, and I just started seeing all that stuff pop up on my Instagram feed. And so did these guys. And one night, Shad sent a group text and just said, you guys want to start a bike company? And we both replied, sure. It was that. It was that simple, man.
It was a text.
He's like,
it was in group chat. It was just like, yeah, okay.
Please.
The text I saved my phone. So,
dude, you need to print it.
Yeah.
Hindsight, it was a group text that was going on for some time because they were both doing some restoration on their mongooses.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like our thread about restoring these old bikes, right? But I think one of the common threads was everything is so inflated, right? I mean, everything is like you're buying gold with old school bike parts now, right? So that was also part of it, right?
Yeah, if they're original parts, or if you're looking at like era correct parts, trying to think about, well, should we put, I mean, that's a great point to bring up, because it's like, we want to, okay, everyone's like, everyone's on board. Yeah, let's do it. And then it's like, okay, let's get down to nuts and bolts, you know?
Literally,
what was it about that? Like when it went beyond the text, what'd you guys do? Just you get together and then spitball it out and just be like,
dude,
here we go, or what? 6-pack of beer.
It was balls to the wall. It was balls to the, no, like I'm not even kidding whenever I say we went from the idea of doing it to having, like, you know, prototypes built, photography done, website developed, product guide done within like 2 months. And I'm not even kidding, right? Because if I was going to go to start looking at manufacturer partners in Taiwan, we needed to be legitimate, right? I mean, they're not going to just give us a quote.
No, but wait a minute. So what did you, I mean, you said you had a prototype built and designed within 2 months, which means you had a bike that you could look at, right? Or a frame.
Dude, dude.
So where did you get the raw goods? I mean, like, are you going down to Home Depot and getting some like rigid conduit? What are you guys doing?
While you're explaining this, I'm going to keep talking, but I'm going to show the bikes because I think I want people to understand what we're talking about while we're talking. So just keep talking, but I'm going to show some bikes.
So
all right, so go ahead, Craig. I'll let you go.
Okay. So let me backtrack a little bit. So when we said, we got the text, shoot, let's start a bike company. We all said, okay. Well, the first thing we had to do was figure out what do we want it to look like? Can we actually do this? What are we talking about? What's the brand? What are we going to do? So we needed basically a ball of clay to start from and to create a mold and figure out, what will we be capable of doing? And what could we make out of this thing? So we actually went over to Walmart and we bought every cheap mongoose they had at our local Walmart. I think we had like 5 or 6. They had 5 or 6 mongooses there. We brought them back to our house and we stripped them down, took all the components off. We had them powder coated in the colors that we were thinking. So like right there, you're looking at the ice white. We have the mint, we have the Bermuda blue. So we figured out kind of what color schemes we would want. And we had the mongooses powder coated. And then we rebuilt the bikes back up with components from the 80s. That was basically our first design concept prototype to say, what would it look like if we decided to do a bicycle? So that's how we started with the prototypes, Craig, and that's what Dave was talking about.
So when you say that you built them up with components from the 80s, you're not talking that you went out and farmed out on BMX Museum or some other site like new old stock stuff. You're talking
Repop
80. Okay,
yep.
I mean, whatever website,
Planet
but it was
BMX,
just basically like
exactly
Repop 80s design looking parts that would fit the genre of an 80s bike, right?
Yeah, actually, so I have one of them sitting behind me. I'll grab it real fast. I don't know if it'll show up well, but so this is actually one of the first.
Dude, that's badass.
Keep talking.
Keep talking.
So, yeah, so this is what we did to say, what would it look like if we made a bicycle? And so we built 4 or 5 of these in the different color schemes to figure out, what we would want to do. And once we had that, let me put this back. We had the photography done, and then we built the website so that we could go, like Dave was saying, over to Taiwan and say, hey, we're a bicycle company. We would like you to make our bicycles for us. Here's our brand. Here's our brochure. Here's our website. And so. But
you're showing them 5 Walmart bikes that you just powder coated and stickered up.
Yes.
Yep.
Brilliant. Oh my God, that is brilliant. So
but I mean, this is like grassroots stuff, right? I mean, we're not going to go out and spend like 10 grand on parts off BMX Museum to, I mean, we built the website like over a weekend, Craig, right? I mean, or at least the majority of it. Like we went out to Pittsburgh with the bikes, did some photography, and like Craig, Shad, and I just sat there and just, worked on the site. I mean, Shad is a genius designer, as you guys can tell from all of our advertisements, our branding. I mean, the dude is beyond talented. So, he knocked out a product guide that was just like, it looked like it came straight out of the 80s. It was incredible. So we were able to send that to manufacturers in Taiwan as well. Like, here's a PDF of our, product guide. So it worked out really well, honestly. I mean, we talked to some very big name companies in Taiwan. All took us very seriously. And in the end, we found a manufacturer that was the best fit for us with a lot of lineage in BMX since the late 70s. So, I mean, we
was
really
this something that
out.
You guys had to, you said you sent over a PDF. Now, you didn't have to actually take the bikes over there, but you sent designs, you sent photographs, probably some type of drawing and spec sheet, right? I mean, what was that transaction like? So you didn't, so that we can understand how that process worked.
I mean, basically I would draft like a RFQ package, right? So I would lay out, this is what we're looking for from frame geometry. Like, this is the top tube, this is the head tube angle, this is the seat stay, give them the key dimensions, right, of what we're looking for. They have frame makers that provided us with the drawings, right? Craig, Shad, nor I, neither of us are engineers, right? I mean, I can read blueprints. I know GD&T to an extent, but I'm not going to be like, hey, I'm going to design a bicycle, and then put it out in the public, right? I mean, I'm going to count on people that do this for a living, that are the experts in design, especially designing like chromoly frames, right? So we work directly with
you had to give them something and say, look, this is what we want it to look like. This is the style. Here's all the specs, and here's all the degrees of all of our frame geometry, and send us something back that we can review and go through and say yes, no, or let's make some changes. And then basically that's how it got going.
Back and forth. Yeah, it was a back and forth, right? I mean, it wasn't like they sent me a drawing and we signed off on it, right? I mean, as we would go through, we'd be wanting to tweak this, tweak that, that's wrong, So we probably had 4 or 5 different revisions of the drawings before we would give them the okay to proceed with it. Yeah, but I mean, as far as like the bill of materials go, that was a bit of a challenge, honestly, like as far as determining what components we could actually access through our manufacturing partner. So there's a lot of things we would have loved to have put on. It would have just been way too expensive.
What was your goal as far as like units? Like when you guys said, all right, let's build these bikes, and you're actually talking, and they're saying you found that manufacturer that you wanted. Did they say, how many do you want? And then what was your answer? What was your guys' goal as far as units?
I mean, whenever we quoted this out, it was 100. Yeah, so give me a quote for 100 bikes as a batch, because we knew we're small, right? I mean, we're self-funded. It's one of those situations where we're testing the waters as a new company to an extent, right? I mean, we're not going to order 5,000 bicycles and then hope they sell, right?
Yeah, well, you guys did this all with pre-orders, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had your 100 pre-orders. You knew that you could have capital to go to this manufacturer and say, look, I can do 100 units. And they're basically doing frame. Are they doing frame, fork, and bars? Or are they doing the whole bike?
The whole bike.
Okay, so you're speccing out every nut and bolt, the chain ring. I mean, top to bottom, front to back. It's like, this is what we want. And they were able to give you a unit complete price, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yep. And they're absolutely awesome to deal with. I mean, they make it so easy for us. Honestly, I mean, I've been in supply chain management and like product development for decades. So I'm very, very particular about, suppliers that, I would source something to, right? I mean, I've traveled the world for every commodity you could imagine, like looking for suppliers. These guys that we partnered with they're on it, man. And it's great because they have all their own in-house support, in-house quality, right? Labs, we send everything off for testing. Everything gets tested according to CPSC. I get test reports from each frame production, fork production, to make sure that the strengths of the materials are adequate and it's meeting SAE standards. So, I mean, overall, it is, like I said, they just make things very, very easy on me.
Were you guys already in these talks and processes and going through all these back and forths, like you mentioned, before COVID, or was this during COVID? Because I really want to know and try to understand like how you guys got through the challenges of, were there any changes that the pandemic brought to shipping, raw materials, all those things that could happen, that even though you had all this experience in commodities and going, traveling the world and stuff, that's one equation, or one part of the equation was that you couldn't factor in was COVID. So like, was that a factor? And like, what did you do
absolutely
to deal with that?
So, I mean, we started, with the idea in like August of 2019. So, roughly 5 months before the pandemic hit. And actually our quotation was received from our supplier the end of January of 2020. So right before the pandemic struck. And at that point, you know, we had to place the orders for our production samples, you know, and that took time. I mean, we didn't have production samples until June of 2020. So, you know, that was right in the heart of the pandemic. So we didn't know what we didn't know from a lead time perspective. But our partner, right, they saw what was coming, because right, they're in Taiwan. They were starting to see what was going on with supply chain. So they were able to really get ahead of it, start ordering some of the long lead parts for us. You know, given the commitment that we were going to place that first PO as soon as the testing passed.
That's incredible.
Testing passed in August. Yeah, testing passed in August, and we launched the website and pre-orders in September. Right after, I wanted to have a test report that showed everything was a passing score, and we would be like certified to be able to proceed. So that was a big goal for us to be able to get that.
Yeah, totally. Get it done and get them shipped. I mean, I'm in awe that you were able to do this during the pandemic, and then now you're at the point where bikes have shipped and customers have those initial orders, right? I mean, that to me is just incredible. During the pandemic, you started a bike company and then delivered when bikes are hard to get right now.
It was funny. We got a lot of messages, you know, when we started launching the brand. We started getting messages from folks on Instagram. They're like, you guys got balls. Like, you're starting a bike company in the middle of a pandemic. It's like, we kind of started it before the pandemic and we just kind of rolled into it. So, I mean, you know, and we've asked that question to ourselves too. Like, if you knew it was coming, would you do anything different? And the answer is no. You know, we wanted to start a bike company. It was our passion, and, you know, we wanted to get it done. What are we going to do? We're not going to just sit around and wait to do it, right? So pandemic, no pandemic, you know, obviously there were some bumps in the road and some things and challenges we had to deal with, you know, and we're still dealing with them, just like every other bike manufacturer is dealing with them right now. But I would do it all over again. I think it was, you know, like Dave said, our partner's been doing this in this industry since the 70s. They know what they're doing. And, you know, our backgrounds in operational management and logistics combined, I mean, we know how to roll with these punches and get over these road bumps and deal with the challenges. So you could say, you know, it was, you know, challenging, but I mean, we're having a blast. So at the end of the day, that's all that really matters to us. You know, like we get, you know, the problems as they come up and we deal with them and we fix them or get around them or figure out a solution and we move on. So
I think that's so rad, man. I mean, it's just, you know, one of the things that you guys were talking about, the challenges and stuff, and so the roadblocks, but, you know, recently I've been watching your page, not just recently, but I've been watching for a long time. But most recently, one of the things I've noticed is when you guys actually received your bike shipments, the response, you had people showing up on the first day that you said, hey, they're here. Okay. There was a picture of a guy who's just like, yeah, like he's us at 11 or 12 years old getting his new bike on his birthday or on Christmas. Yeah. Like, what were I mean, when you told people, yo, bikes are here, come get your bike if you're in the local area or you can get here. I mean, like, tell us about the feeling when you had your actual real face-to-face customers enter your shop or your garage or wherever you had them. And what was that like? Like, we're now giving the bikes to the riders who purchased them. I mean,
yeah.
What was that feeling like?
Surreal.
Yeah. If you go back to exactly how we started this conversation and why we all have such a passion for BMX and everybody watching this has such a passion for bikes, is because, and I think particularly for guys our age, and we've talked about this before, bicycles, BMX, that was kind of our first taste of freedom when we were young, right? I mean, that was our gateway to like just go explore, go find stuff, go get in trouble, go do whatever. So I think we all have this like bond around bicycles. It doesn't matter who you show one of these bikes to. I'll ride my bike around my neighborhood and somebody will be like, is that a trick bike? You know, I remember that bike from the 80s, and like they'll grab their kids and show up. Like, it doesn't matter who, if you grew up, if you're in our age group, there's this bond that exists because of, you know, what BMX did for us growing up. So anyway, So to go from that to creating a company to actually having the bikes in hand, like Dave said, was surreal. The guy in that photo, though, is my childhood friend, Chad Henry. And he was one of the first guys to get one of our bikes. And he was the first one to get a bike from the warehouse when they showed up. He actually drove in from Muncie, Indiana, helped us like sort the boxes and all that stuff. But he was the first customer. But that's my childhood friend. That's who I rode, grew up riding BMX with.
That's so cool, dude, that he's riding your bike now. That is incredible to me. I mean,
yeah.
What do you ever get nervous when you see people riding your bike and you're like, oh man, what do you, because like I'd hammer him like, hey, what do you think? What should I do? What, like, do you like it? Do you like my bike? I would be that, like, I do that when people buy shirts. So I know I would be like just crazy irritating about bikes.
Yeah, we do. I mean, everybody who has received a bike and posted it on Instagram or emailed us or whatever, that's the first thing I ask them is, are you happy? Do you like the bicycle? What can we do better next time? And just try to get some feedback. But the feedback so far has been amazing. Everybody's loving the bikes. We've got some guys who are, old, freestylers, ranked freestylers. A gentleman, Mike Saris, sorry. Mike, is down in North Carolina. You guys may have seen him on YouTube. That dude does some insane tricks. He's got a Miami hopper that he does where he stands up on the rear pegs of the bicycle. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but so, Mike, gives us a ton of feedback and tells us what he likes, what he doesn't like, what he would change. But all the feedback that we've received from everybody so far has been very positive. But yeah, that's the first thing I ask him, Isaac, is, are you happy with the bike? What would you change on the bike? And we just keep digging and digging and digging, right? Because we want to make product, we want to make sure the customer's happy. And two, we want to make sure that, the product we're putting out is the best possible product. So.
Isaac, think of it like this, Isaac, because Isaac has this term that I don't know if he coined it or just uses a lot.
Oh, I didn't coin it. I know what you're using. Yeah.
He uses the term water slide smile. And I never say it right the first time. I always say water slide. It's water slide smile. And Isaac, check it out. When Prospect BMX was posting after, these customers are picking up their bikes and people are taking them home and starting to, post up little clips of them riding. Every person that I saw that posted a little video clip on their story on their new Prospect bike had that water slide smile. Nobody was frowning. Nobody looked like, they were all like, dude, I got my bike. And, there were guys and gals and just everyone having a good time. And I was like, that's Isaac's water slide smile,
Totally is. Totally is. Yeah. Bike. I mean, dude, new bike day, but here's the thing.
New bike
dude,
day is always a smile typically, unless it sucks.
New bike day is awesome no matter who you are. Now, new bike day, when it is a unridden 80s bike, is completely different because I can't just go buy that. Where can I go buy a complete unridden 80s bike for under 2 G's if you really think about it? Because at 2 G's, an unridden 80s bike, you're gonna have just something like what's like, I'm trying to think of like a Raleigh, maybe, you know what I mean? Like the bike, an MCS style or something nobody wants.
That, or you're going to have something that's not rideable. I mean, Isaac, think about it. You take $2,000 and you're going to get a Grail 80s era bike. You
get a frame.
One, good luck finding it, the one you want. Two, if you do, get ready to shell out. And then it's like, that's the beginning. If your pocket's empty on the frame or on that Survivor or whatever it is, you might be waiting around a while because it's going to take that same amount of money just to get it back up into rideable shape. Right. Excuse me. So like I think you said it, Isaac, an 80s style bike on new bike day, that's shiny, it's ready to ride, it's all brand new, there's not a nick, there's not a speck of dirt on the tires,
laid back seat post. I mean,
all of it, bro.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Super smile day.
It is. Now, so we've this is where I'm getting excited now as well. Now the bikes have shipped. What's up with V2? What's next? And I have a request, but go ahead. Tell me first. What's next for Prospect?
I mean, next right now I have a 24-inch BMX that's in development. You know, I'm a huge fan of like, you know, cruisers, and, you know, it's something that I wanted to do from the beginning, just, you know, coming from more of a race background, not so much freestyle background. And being a little bit, you know, on the huskier side of things, you know, 24-inch, I think would fit me better.
Yeah, dude. Husky Nation.
But that's what we're developing right now. It's still going to be old school geometry, but we're upgrading a bunch of things, right? I mean, we're going to go, you know, 1 1/8-inch, you know, integrated headset. You know, we're going to do seal bearings on pretty much everything, right? You know, it's going to be more of what we would have liked to have done on the generation, but the whole purpose of the generation was to try to make it as era accurate as possible, right? So we didn't want to take away from that, and I think we definitely accomplished our goal with it. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff coming in with our next bike. Hopefully by the end of August, I'll have the production samples here, and then we can start sharing some more information, specs, etc. on it. And then once it's done with testing, you know, we can.
Now, did you end up going? Did you end up going to Walmart and buying all the 24s off those slide out racks?
There were none. There were none.
I was gonna say, which ones, buddy? No, so like this is truly a grassroots design that you're doing, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's cool. So
yeah, I mean, the current bike is a grassroots design too. You know, the whole purpose of the Walmart bikes was just to be able to make some marketing stuff for us to be able to be taken seriously, right? I mean, it's kind of like a facade in a way.
It's actually genius. I mean,
get our foot in the door. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's such a good move. I mean, to be like, look, we've got this bike. Now we want you to make it. Whether you went to Walmart, whether you know, found them at a garage sale, it wouldn't matter. The fact that you guys were able to put something together and go, look, here it is. I mean, we got it. We just need you to spec it out and build it. That's genius, Isaac.
I think it's brilliant. I said it from the start. Like, that is the start of, I mean, every good company that, like, you have that story of, like, you know, Apple, you know, was made in someone's garage, you know, and you're going to have the story of like, man, remember the time we just took a bunch of, like, you know, we went into Walmart and got some bikes painted and like made a website to show like, hey, we're a big company and we need you to make some bikes for us. And they're like, yeah, let's roll. I mean, dude, you guys are so casual about it, but I'm like, I would have never thought of that. I would have been like, hi, I'm a new person and I want to make a BMX bike. Wouldn't have worked out even close to what you got going on. So I'm stoked, dude.
Well, and it's funny because, I mean, you know, to find manufacturers in Taiwan, that is not easy at all. I did tons of research, and it just so happened I had a conference call with the sales director at Skyway Wheels, and we were chit-chatting, you know, and I was like, hey, let me pick your brain. Back in the 80s, you remember who you guys supplied over in Taiwan? And he just started spitting names out, and I was just taking notes, you know, and then I started to see what companies are still out there, you know, and a lot of them weren't, but one of them was, and I had reached out to their president, and like she instantly responded with their general manager in copy, and I've been working with her ever since. So, I mean, it's, you know, it was like honestly the perfect match for us. So,
yeah, that's rad.
It's a small world.
You have a 24 coming, and are you doing another? Are you going to do more batches of 20s?
Mm-hmm.
Same designs generation.
Yeah, we make some like aesthetic changes. You know, just little things here and there that we, you know, now that we have the bikes, and you know, we're getting some feedback from customers, and just some of the things that we would like to change up too. So just little things here and there, and probably some new colorways, probably some like day glow colors, things of that nature.
Bro, a hot pink, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Like that GT pink. Oh, be gorgeous. And recently, like Craig, I follow y'all's Instagram, and you were at the Ohio RL meetup, right?
Yeah, Buckeye Bike Show.
The Buckeye Bike Show. What was that like, dude?
Unreal.
I mean, okay.
It was so cool.
Yeah. Okay. So You guys, I'm gonna geek out real bad right now. Okay, who got there first? You or RL? Were you guys there before RL?
We were setting up when RL came in.
Okay, so RL walks in with Dylan, I'm assuming, and you're like, like, because I'd be like, Craig, that's RL right there. You know what I mean? Like, who noticed RL first, or was he just like?
He just walked up and was like, "What's up, dudes?" Like, I mean, but you got to understand. I think Craig and RL and Dylan talk a ton on Instagram, in the DMs and stuff. So I mean, there's already a relationship there.
Yeah.
I mean, we send them some shirts and stuff, and they've been great supporters, since we started. It's just been really cool. So it was nice to actually get to meet them, and it wasn't like starstruck. It was like they're the most laid back, coolest dudes ever. You could just talk to them for days.
I do this to 80s Craig all the time. I'm like, if I would have told you at 12 years old, Dave, that RL would walk up to you somewhere before you see him and be like, "What's up, dudes?" What would 12-year-old Dave say?
No way.
Right? Yeah. It's so funny though, right? Because you're like, dude, RL Osborne walked up.
Never.
I mean, to me, that's crazy. I love that.
So they rode their bikes in. Actually, they rode in, said what's up, and walked over because RL kind of like went by the booth and was just kind of sitting on his bike. And I walked up, just shook his hand, and he's like, "You ride? You want to take my bike around?" And I'm like, so to your point, Isaac, what would 12-year-old Craig say if the first time I met RL Osborne, he would hand me his bike and say, "Hey, take it for a spin. Let me know what you think."
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And mean it though. But mean it, you know what I mean? Because he's like, dude, tell me about it. Like, well, he's the same as you. He's like, dude, tell me, what do you think? What should I do? Yeah, if I'm ever at a spot and RL's like, ride my bike, tell me what you think, I would still be missing, and I would be in a parking lot somewhere in Delaware riding RL's bike. I don't think I'd be able to give it back. I would have been like, he can't catch.
In all fairness, it was a bit big for Craig.
Yeah. It was his 26-inch Haro, but I look like a toddler on that thing.
So do I. What did you think? Okay, so this is fascinating to me too. What did you think of riding big bikes? What was that like for you? Spending so much time.
Yeah. So that was my first time on a big bike, and it was smooth. The balance was really good on it. Like I felt like the balance was like really nice on it, but I definitely felt small on it. I'm 5'8", 150 pounds. I've always ridden 20-inch bikes. I never went to 24. I always rode 20. I had a road bike and stuff like that, mountain bikes, but I actually got rid of those a couple of years ago. So all I primarily ride and have ridden are 20. So I felt a little bit small on it, but I did like the bike. I was trying to do some fork glides and, some other tricks on it and peg hops and stuff. But he's got, what is that freewheel he's got on there? So I was trying to do like rollbacks, and I kept pedaling backwards, and he's like, "Dude, you don't have to pedal backwards." And every time I would do it, I would start to pedal backwards. So I couldn't break the habit of pedaling.
He's got that free coaster on there. So yeah, totally, dude. I get it. Well, I mean, that's, to me, I love the big bikes. I think they're comfortable. They're amazing. But this show, I mean, even though we call it Big Bike BMX, I mean, Craig and I are rooted in 20-inch. I spent my life on a 20-inch bike. And so like, that's my home. And I'm still on a quest to be able to sit on a 20-inch bike and have it feel like I'm 14 again. I'm still looking for that. I have the geometry and looking at the rear triangle of like the generation bike looks like the bikes that we all grew up on. So I cannot wait to make it out to the Midwest or over to Philly and just sit on one of your bikes and just have a moment, dude, where I can just be 14 again, chilling, some Skyway Tufts. I'd want the Tufts, but So
it may fit you. Sorry, I'm cutting you off, but the generation might fit you pretty well too, because the bottom bracket is, sits back a little bit further. That was one of the things that Mike Saris pointed out too. He said, compared to, like, he has an 88 GT that he likes to ride a lot too. But compared to that, it's, it sits back a little bit further. So it is a little bit, the top tube is a little bit longer of a bike, 20.5-inch top tube. But so you may feel really comfortable on a generation.
That's awesome. Dave, how tall are you?
I'm 5'11". but my wife will tell you I'm like 5'9".
Right.
But I'm 5'11".
Right. Dude, my wife does the same, dude. I'll tell
That
you.
posture sucks. I'm getting old.
Yeah, right. Last year I was 6 foot. This year I'm 5'11". You know, I get it. I get it. So, I mean, for me, dude, what else? Looking at the future, you've got a 24. You're going to keep doing the 20s. You're going to do some new colorways. What do you think is going to be like? If my question is basically like 5 years from now, if you were to make a bucket list of where Prospect is, what does Prospect look like in 5 years for you?
It's a great question. Hopefully just continuing to build bikes and, you know, inspiring people to ride and get out and have fun. And, you know, I would love to see, you know, eventually, you know, it depends on what happens with the company, but like if we start sponsoring riders or, you know, doing things of that nature and bringing back, you know, some of the nostalgia of the 80s and putting on the shows. I know there's other shows out there right now too, but, you know, I could definitely see us doing something of that nature. But, you know, right now, you know, the goal is just to keep doing what we're doing and, you know, inspiring people to ride. And, you know, one of the great things about what we're seeing now too, and this kind of plays into the future, is there's not only guys and gals our age buying these bikes, there's kids buying these bikes, the generation. So there's, you know, kids who are 10, 12, 14, you know, buying these bikes, and they're doing 80s tricks on them. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with them as they continue to, you know, close in on their 20s. Do they continue riding? Do they continue doing tricks? How can we support them and keep that, you know, kind of the 80s era alive with them? And what does that turn into? Does that start turning into a team? Does that start turning into, you know, demos and videos and doing all the other things? So who knows, man? It'll be interesting though, that's for sure.
I love that. I love the fact that, you know, you guys could have taken so many different directions as far as design, the aesthetics, the colorways, the components, and you two decided to make this like an 80s era bike. And when you said that, you know, guys and gals and kids are on these bikes, especially the younger generations that go, man, I got an 80s era bike. And then they go, well, you know, and they've got YouTube and all these things that they can look at, Instagram, and say, well, what is it about this bike? What were these guys doing on this bike back in the day? Let me take a look at that. And so by doing that, it's bridging a gap back to the roots of BMX, back to the, you know, even the 70s, the 80s, through mid school, new school, whatever, but it really kicks it back to where it all started. And you're giving that to people. You're giving them that experience to sit on that bike. So when they see Eddie Fiola and Martin Aparijo and RL and Buff and all these guys doing tricks on bikes that looks like their bikes, they'll have a greater appreciation for that aesthetic, for that feel, for the balance, and they can look at something and go, wow, that's really cool. I want to try that. And I got that bike right here in the garage. I got a Prospect. So that, I mean, you guys know, you see my account. I'm, you know, I'm all about the 80s, but I'm really all about BMX. It's about the experience. It's about the feeling for me, the emotions that come about when I think about, you know, the old school stuff and then still riding today. But when I see a bike company like Prospect nod their caps to an era that is not gone, but some may have forgotten or some may have, you know, moved forward, they can turn their heads back and say, you know what, because of my Prospect bike or because of the fact that I got a Prospect shirt or I'm going to get a Prospect bike, I'd like to know more about the 80s, or I'd like to give some homage to that. You know, I think that's extremely commendable for you guys. And I love it that you took that route. You know, it's a really cool thing to do. I love what you guys are doing, man. And I am super excited to, you know, see what's going to come about with the 24, with, you know, more versions, more colorways, more maybe component changes, and whatever else is going to come about in that 5-year outlook, like Isaac was talking about. It's just really exciting, man. I applaud you guys. I tip my hat to you for doing what you do. It's an amazing journey, a path from that group text to handing out bikes that are in to customers out of your shop. You know, how cool is that?
It is so, and I mean, you know, we had a customer in Ontario that took it over to Harvester, right, to have them assemble it, and they did an unboxing video of it. You know, I mean, that's huge.
Harvester's dope, dude. I love Harvester.
I love it too.
Yeah,
Following him for a
Harvesters.
while, man.
I wouldn't even say it's my guilty pleasure, dude. Like it'll pop up. It'll be like, hey, Harvesters did an unboxing. I'm like, well, we're gonna pause and we're gonna go watch that. I love Harvester. Dude, please make a Scott t-shirt, like Ride Like Scott, and just put like ask him if you can get a picture of his face and just put his face on a Prospect shirt, like right where my night one is. Just put Scott's face, because Scott, I totally get you, dude. I love what you're doing. I love the fact that he's like, let's pump that stimulus back into like a US company. But dude, that it's so much bigger than that. Like, I want to support a small business and I want to, have that bike. That's such a nod and such that's a BMX thing to do.
It's
BMX thing to do.
It is, dude. It is. And I think Australia has an incredible scene. I mean, just from what I can tell, it's pretty lit out there. So, hopefully, part of our 5-year plan is to expand international, right? I mean, more so than just shipping bikes from the US internationally, but, hopefully we can set up some type of distribution, Europe and Australia.
Yeah,
make things a little bit easier on myself and Craig and Shad in the long term.
Yeah.
So,
dude, I got to shout out to Australia, because we have a bunch of people that listen in Australia. And I'll be honest, dude, like when we sell jerseys to Australia, I tell my wife, because she gets so stoked. She's like, that's awesome. Like, your jerseys are somewhere else. So I understand how that feels to go, it's in Australia. The other thing is, everybody in Australia is inherently cool. Every single one of them. Like,
totally.
Because I will email them. I'll be like, look, all right, here's the deal. I'm going to order this jersey. It's going to take probably a month to get it to my house. Then I'm going to go and ship it to you. It may take about another month. And they're like, it's no problem, mate. I'm like, all right, cool.
No, they get it. Yeah. I mean, they are the best people in the world, man. Like, I love them. I've gone on business trips down there, met tons of amazing people in Australia, and it's like from day one, you're like their best friend. They'll take you wherever they go.
Yeah.
Like a lost dog.
I love it. Absolutely love it. And I love that there's still a big scene in Australia. So shout out to everybody down there that still rides, that keeps our shared, you may not be here in the US, I may not be there in Australia, but if you're pedaling, I'm pedaling, we're good. We're golden. We're doing the same things, and that's dope. So Craig, or 80s BMX Craig, any last questions you have for Craig, Hannah, and Dave?
No, I think I try to wrap it up as far as my summation, and just say, man, we are so stoked that you guys were here tonight. We love the story. We love, the fact that it's a real life thing, that you guys brought a bike company built out of the passion and the love for BMX, especially for 80s BMX. And I'm down with that. Everything that you guys did to give people the opportunity to have those same feelings that you guys have, that Isaac and I and so many others, and make it an affordable thing that people can just go out and have fun on. And that's what it's really all about. So you guys are creating fun, you're creating nostalgia, a lot of emotions around your product. And we couldn't be more happy to have you guys here, more stoked to know you dudes, and best of luck and just all best wishes with everything you guys are doing at Prospect, man. I just want to say thank you for being here and shedding some light on what it takes to have an idea and follow through with it, man. It's such a good story, man. I can't thank you guys enough for being here. So from the bottom of my heart, man, appreciate you dudes, and we'll be in touch. But for everyone else that's watching and listening out there, go check out Prospect BMX Bikes. If you haven't already, you guys want to give your Instagram or your Facebook or your social media, let's go ahead and do that.
Sure. The website's prospectbmx.com, and then the Instagram and Facebook handles are Prospect Bicycles. So at Prospect Bicycles.
Excellent. And then is there, what if someone like, let's say Sean from PhoenixBikeCompany is like, hey man, I want to get a Prospect. Are you taking dealer orders? Is that something you're looking at, or is it just direct to consumer?
We do both. Yeah.
Yep. We do both.
Okay.
It is. I mean, we've delivered probably a dozen bikes to local shops over the last couple of days. I mean, that's a big thing I think Craig and I didn't touch on that's important, right? I mean, we're an e-commerce company, but we're also 3 guys running a business, right? So it's very difficult to scale it you know, right out of the bat to have like a full, you know, distribution to resellers all over the country or all over the world. But what we do want to do is encourage everybody to support their local bike shops. Even our bikes that we purchase and they're ours, like I got a new generation with a new color that I took to the local bike shop yesterday to have it assembled. Why? Because it's the right thing to do, right? We want to support the bike shops. That's what we remember as kids, right? That was like our candy shop. Yeah. So, I mean, it's important that we continue to support them. So I just want to urge everybody to continue to support, you know, if you have a local bike shop and, you know, use them for everything, even if you don't necessarily need to, you know.
I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. I mean, walking into a bike shop in 2021 smells the same as walking into a bike shop in 1984. The rubber tires and tubes, it hits you. You're right there again. So go visit your local bike shop, even if it's just a walk through. Trust me, you'll have some warm fuzzies, and you'll remember why you like bikes just visiting a bike shop. So I love that. So bike shops, if you're interested in getting hooked up with Prospect, hit them up on the website. If you are a consumer and you want to learn more about Prospect, hit them up, Prospect BMX. Find them on their socials. You'll see all the stuff we just talked about. Gentlemen, thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you have done for a sport that I love. The fact that you did this it just shows your passion for what I think is the golden era of BMX. Like that was the start of it. That was what got us to where we're at now. And there's nobody else I know that is giving back to riders like us that grew up with that style of bike and are making it affordable. So thank you on behalf of everybody that likes to ride bikes, everyone that's an 80s kid and that will look over and see that bike, that mint colored bike riding on the street, hopefully with some white tufts, and just think, you know what? The 80s are alive and well, you know?
Yep.
So thank you both. Craig, why don't you send us out, brother?
Yeah. No problem, man. Everybody out there, thank you so much. If you're here on YouTube or in the live chat, we appreciate you guys so much. Again, big shout out and a huge thanks to our guests tonight. For Prospect BMX Bicycles, we have Craig Hanna and Dave DeFazio. Want to give you guys a huge shout out and best wishes and best of luck to everything with your company. To all of our listeners out in the streaming world on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever your favorite platform is, thank you guys for showing up too. And a huge shout out to the Big Bike BMX show sponsors. We have KnightBikeCo, OldBones Therapy, PhoenixBikeCo, Etnies BMX, RideOutSupply, and CrushedMX gloves. Thank you guys for being such an important part of this show and for supporting Isaac and I and Big Bike BMX. Isaac, man, thank you for showing up and letting me hang out again with you, bro. I surely appreciate it. Why don't you take us out?
You guys, thanks, Craig. You guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Everybody in live chat, it's been a blast. I know it has because I haven't talked to y'all in a minute. So I'm dying to see how everyone's doing. So love you in the live chat. Thanks for showing up, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, fellas.
Thanks for showing up, guys. We love you. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.